Welcome to Batty Diaries. My room is a complete mess. I apologize so much. So I'm actually so excited because today we're talking about content that converts on LinkedIn, how to create it. This is probably my favorite topic. I'm literally obsessed with content. If if I could just create content all day, I would be fine with that. I guess I'm a content creator, so that makes sense. So what we're going to be basically talking about today is the mindset that you need to adopt to create killer content that converts. So this is what I think most people are missing in order to create really truly differentiated content. Then we're going to talk about what you need first in order to create content that converts. I'm going to share with you my secret formula for creating content that converts, and then why content is so critical if you want to attract your dream clients. So that is what we're talking today, and I am freaking excited. All right. So let's see if a few people are going to. Hi, thanks for joining. So excited to have you here. Hey, Marissa. Oh, hi. I'm not used to seeing on YouTube where the live it's on the left there. So welcome. Let me know where you're calling in, where you're logging in from. Where are y'all at? I'm in Vancouver, Canada. It's gonna rain today. It's been a lot of sun. Dallas, nice. Love it. Love it. I haven't been to Texas yet, but I actually just got back from LA. So that's why I'm like, my sunburn is still a little bit visible. But let's start off with a really funny story that happened to me last Friday. So I was getting on my flight to LA. I swear this is really just content. I don't know if you guys saw my LinkedIn post last Friday, but I was literally in the customs line on my about to get on my flight to LA, and I'm on my phone and I hear around me someone's like, "Hey, are you on LinkedIn?" And I turn around and someone is standing there looking at me and they're just like, "I think I follow you on LinkedIn. Are you Lena?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And turns out it's Charles Shima, who is a tech founder in Vancouver. He recognized me at the airport and he was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm actually meeting you in person." And so, the reason I'm telling this story is because that's not the first time this has happened to me. A lot of people will kind of recognize me either from LinkedIn or TikTok, mainly from my content. And the reason for that is because I'm able to create content that is truly authentic to me and also really actually kind of goes against the grain and catches people's attention. So it's not just that like they're following me on LinkedIn kind of passively, but I feel like because of my content, people are really plugged into not just what I'm teaching, but like my whole philosophy and my whole vibe and my whole brand. Like pretty much everyone in my audience knows pretty much my whole hey Sarah, thanks for joining on Instagram. And so basically it's not just about like I'm teaching in my content, but it's like a lot of my audience knows like I'm hey, thanks for joining. Thanks so much on the YouTube. Love it. Let me know where you guys are calling in from. I love seeing where you're coming in from. But it's not just about what I'm teaching, but it's like most of my audience knows like I'm a two times corporate dropout. I like to go against the grain. I like to, oh, nice. We have two people from Texas today. I love it. And they actually really kind of know my personality, right? And that's why people, I think, are so plugged into my content because I actually put my personality. Hey, Sonia, nice. Joining in from New Jersey. Love it. And so I really do put, sorry, I thought that I was going to be not so hot in here, but turns out the weather is very unpredictable. I think my sunburn is also making it very difficult to manage my body temperature. But anyway, the key to content is to actually infuse your personality into it, right? So I'll talk about this in a second, but I just wanted to kind of call out because a lot of people ask me, they're just like, oh, like, how do you create such good content? And honestly, at the core of it, I'll talk about this more in a second, but like it's really kind of two things. It's like the customer research piece, so actually knowing who I'm speaking to and how to identify their pain points. And then there's the personal brand. So actually putting myself in my content so that people aren't just learning from me, but they are actually getting plugged into my philosophy, right? So, and that's honestly what I do a lot with my clients. Like literally 90% of my clients, when they work with me or if they enter any kind of my programs, literally within like a week or two, their content shifts and they start to really open up and put their true kind of like soul, if you will, into their content. And then they start getting more engagement. They start getting more comfortable. They start like you feel more appreciated, right? Like when you actually put your personal brand into your content, like your audience actually really kind of connects with you deeply, right? So this is what I think kind of most people are missing from their content. Like if I were to just like put my hand over your headline on LinkedIn, I wouldn't really know that it was your post. So this takes time to get to. Obviously, when you like first start posting, it's not like everyone's like, oh my God, like it's Sandra. And like we immediately know, even though she hasn't posted, obviously not. Like this comes with time. But the goal is for people to literally be able to tell that it's you from your content without your name being attached to it, either in terms of the way that you write your post or the topics that you talk about, right? Like I do believe that like the topics I talk about are pretty kind of differentiated to me. So even if you necessarily didn't see my profile with the content, you could kind of connect it to me, or that's kind of the hope, right? All right. So the mindset that you need to adopt to create killer content. Okay. So I wanted to ask you guys something. Drop in the chat how you feel about content. Hey, Daria. Oh, my favorite girl from LA is joining me on Instagram. I just had like an amazing chat with her in LA when I was there. But drop in the chat how you honestly feel about content. Do you like creating content or do you not like creating content? So tell me in the chat how you feel about it, because this is a key part of creating content and the mindset of creating content that works. So drop in the chat how you feel about content. Do you actually like creating it or do you dread creating it? What is your experience? I want to hear from you. You love creating. Okay, Sonia loves creating content. Brenda causes me stress. Marissa, it's been a little exhausting up until now. After I watched your masterclass, I felt a little more free though. I like needed permission to be weird. Hey Brenda, it's so good to see you in the live. I like it, but still finding my unique POV. Okay, perfect. Nice. So this is a really important topic that doesn't get talked about enough. So a lot of kind of like LinkedIn coaches, I feel like they're just like, oh, like get consistent, create content, get, build a personal brand. But it's like the thing that's missing, I think, is seeing content really as like a self-expression. So this is kind of like my secret, if you will, to creating really good content is like I actually genuinely literally enjoy creating content. Like I love my content. Like, okay, it's taken a while to get there. Obviously, we don't like love our content immediately from day one, but it's like I really love the things that I talk about. Like, I love the way that I create my carousels. Like, I really care about how my content looks. Like, I when I post content, like I feel like I'm actually getting something off my chest. Like, it's almost like this sounds crazy, but it's almost like a spiritual experience. Like yesterday, I was writing my post for today on LinkedIn, and it's like, it's a very kind of like sacred process for me. So I know that sounds really intense, but I really think that if we look at content not as something that's like annoying and like, oh, it's like so dreadful, because when we're doing that, there's some kind of friction. So either like we're not able to be ourselves or something. So like Marissa was saying, she watched my masterclass and she's like, okay, now I feel more free. I kind of like gave myself permission to be weird. So now you can actually be yourself, which means that now your content can actually become a self-expression, right? And so trying to make it so that like, are you like, why do you, if you don't like creating content or you find it stressful, is it maybe because you're not talking about something that you truly care about? Do you feel like you can't really be yourself online? These are some of the mental blocks that I see a lot of my clients and my audience have that prevents them from truly kind of unlocking the power of content. So I want you to always ask yourself, like, do I really feel kind of like lifted posting this? Like, do I feel like I'm sending an important message to the world? Like, what am I trying to do with my content? And like, what am I trying to share with the world? And that sometimes makes it easier for you to kind of like fall in love with content because it becomes sort of like your movement, right? So drop an emoji in the chat if this is landing. I know this is kind of like a bit of a slightly even like woo woo kind of idea, but I truly believe content is almost like spiritual. Okay. Okay, Marissa's dropping an emoji in the chat. I love it. So I really think that if we loved content, we would be able to create better content. Okay, so let's chat about what you need first in order to actually create content that converts. Okay, so I feel like a lot of people, when they're trying to sell through their content, it's like this stems from a lot of people think that they understand their Sonia's dropping an emoji in the chat, love it. So some people sorry, I'm getting a little bit lost my train of thought there. It's still early in the morning. What do you need first in order to create content? Okay, so a lot of people kind of assume that they understand their ideal client. So this is and I think it's like, you know, if especially we've been like working with our ideal client for a bit, we're kind of just like, obviously we like know who our ideal client is. Hey, thanks for joining on IG. We've got like a pretty full house today. I'm really happy. But basically, I think honestly, most people don't really truly actually understand their ideal client, or they don't actually know what are the things that you need to talk about in order to actually connect with your ideal client. And so the literal like kind of thing that you need to do is like create a list of like all of their pain points and the key here and their desires and everything like that, but the key here is you need to actually get it in their words. And so this is where I feel like a lot of people get tripped up is they do the customer research as in they're like, obviously I understand my client, like I've been working with this person for 4 months, they want this, they want more views on TikTok, or like they want this, but it's like, is that really what it is? Because I don't know if you guys saw my LinkedIn post a few weeks ago where I actually asked my clients why they hired me. This was like, I asked them like 6 months ago, but I asked them why they hired me. And literally the reason shocked me. Like, it's not what you think it is. And especially even if it's and it's usually the surface level thing is not really the thing. Like, you have to dig deeper. Like when I talked about this in the first no, I talked about this in my live stream called Your Profile is a Canvas, Your LinkedIn Profile is a Canvas. And I talked about how in the beginning of my business, I was basically selling LinkedIn profiles. I was optimizing LinkedIn profiles for people. And I thought I was selling LinkedIn profiles. And so literally I was like, hey, like, do you guys want to optimize your profile? Like, do you want a new profile? And like all this stuff. Until literally I realized like they're not hiring me to do the profile. They're actually hiring me to like figure out their personal brand identity and essentially enable them to show up as they are. And so one of my audience members actually called me the LinkedIn therapist at one point because she's like, you're helping people like deal with their baggage, with their like career, and like Neon Neutral's like, yes, exactly. It's like a more personal thing. And so when I actually talk to my clients, they're just like, yeah, like the copy was great on the profile. Obviously, like the banner and everything, like we love the design, but it's more than that. It's like I now know kind of like have clarity on like my mission and who I am and how I want to show up. And that now gives them action, right? And so it's not usually the feature. Like it's not the thing that you think it is, and you need to dig deeper, and we need to get into all the objections and the pain points and the fears. It's true, there's really a blockage for a lot of people with LinkedIn, more so than other platforms. Yes. I want to double tap on what Marissa just said. With LinkedIn being kind of like a more professional platform, it can get a little harder, especially with getting in your head. People know for sure you are a real person there. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like the good and the bad, right? Because you're like, you build trust faster. But at the same time, it's like, people know who you are. It's like they can literally tie everything that you say almost like to your employer if you have one, or like to your business. It's like there's a certain level of visibility that comes with LinkedIn, right? But I think it's so important to find the right balance for you and not put a limit on yourself on what you think is going to be acceptable or not. So, not that I'm saying like be inappropriate and then like hope that no one, I'm not saying be inappropriate, but like we all need to find the balance of how can we actually still show up as ourselves on LinkedIn. And kind of the one thing that I'll say to you guys out there who are business owners who don't work for an employer, you have a really big advantage because you don't have to worry. Again, it's not the end of the world if you have an employer. Like there's ways to manage. I was in corporate for ages with a personal brand, posting on LinkedIn every day. It's doable. But all I'm saying is if you don't have an employer and you don't have a boss, that should be even more permission for you to actually show up the way that you want to because you don't have that limitation, right? So again, don't create the additional limitation for yourself for no reason. Sometimes I like can't drink water properly. Okay, so what you need first in order to create content is you need to actually deeply understand your customer. And so one of the things that I talked about on my Instagram stories yesterday is I talked about the mistakes that I see people make when they're trying to create content that converts. And this is actually kind of a mistake I was making a few months ago is you're doing the customer research, you're talking to the clients, you're like, I'm talking to them, I'm getting everything in their words, but you're actually listening to slightly different personas. And so sometimes when we start our business, we are not that, or not even like when we start our business, sometimes even later on, it's really hard to be disciplined on like the narrow persona that you're targeting. And so because we don't want to be disciplined, we start kind of listening to more people. But the challenge, and I'm not talking about like listening to everyone, I'm just talking about even listening to a wider range of your target persona. But the thing is, like, some of those people, if they are a little bit different to your core ideal client persona, their pain points or even the way that they talk about their pain points or desires is going to be different than that core persona. And so you need to be really strict with yourself about who you're speaking to, right? And I've even recently kind of gotten even more narrow in who I'm speaking to. If you need to base it off of like a single person, that's probably the best way to go, honestly, in my opinion. But basically making sure that you're actually gathering data from the same type of person. Otherwise, your marketing messaging is not going to land. Because this is what I want to explain to you. Like, you need to make it so that like 70% or more of your posts directly speak to your ideal client. So let's say, for example, like you're following me on LinkedIn and I post 5 times a week and you're reading all my posts. So imagine you're reading my posts, but then only one post out of the week directly speaks to you. But then the rest of the 4 are not really super relevant. Like the rest of the 4, you're not just like, oh, like this person really understands me. You're kind of going from like, oh my God, this person understands me to kind of like, oh, wait, like maybe they don't understand. Maybe they weren't actually talking to me. Or it's like, let's say I see the first post and I'm like, oh my God, like they're talking to me, like this is great, blah, blah, blah. But then I even don't see the other 4. Like, let's say I don't even read the other 4 posts because the hook doesn't interest me. Even if I'm still believing in you, you have to keep hitting me with a touch point because I'm going to forget about you. So if I have to now wait a week to see another post that's going to resonate with me, you're going to lose that that traction in my mind, the momentum in my mind that's thinking like, oh, like Lena's a LinkedIn person. Like I like her content. She was really speaking to me. You need to really carry that momentum with people. That's how you push people down the buyer journey, right? Like you're hitting them with a touch point every time and it's very precise, right? This is why repetition in marketing is so important because people literally need to hear it like 8 times. I think it's like you need 7 touch points to make a sale. Like people literally, like pay attention to yourself when you're buying. That's actually one of the biggest kind of like hacks as well for creating content that converts. Literally pay attention to what converts for you. How do you convert? How many times do you have to see someone in the feed to actually be like, like maybe I'll work with them? And then like how much more do you need to binge their content and like be told that they're for you in order for you to pull the trigger? Think about it, right? So drop an emoji if this is landing, because self-introspection on your buyer behavior is a very, very critical component of understanding how you're going to sell, right? Because the way that you sell, the way that you're sold to is sometimes going to be similar to the way that your clients want to be sold to, especially from like a philosophy perspective. So I'm going to do like a tiny segue here on cold outreach. So I have never done cold outreach in my life. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I'm not closing the door, but there's a very specific reason why I don't do cold outreach. Number one is because I don't like cold outreach. I don't like it. Like, I just got a cold email yesterday and I got like 3 cold DMs on LinkedIn this morning. And honestly, they just pissed me off. I don't like it. I'm really crazy. Sometimes I will, like, if I really don't like a cold email, I will go look at the person on LinkedIn just to see. I'm like curious. Like, why are you freaking sending me this like super irrelevant email? And you know what's happening when I go look at their LinkedIn profile? I'm now remembering who they are. I'm putting a face to the name. And now their personal brand is being tarnished with me. And the thing is, like, I'm not saying that's the end of the world. I'm not saying like no one should ever do cold outreach and you're evil if you do it. No, I'm just saying, to me, I don't like it. I don't like to be treated like that, and I don't want my clients to ever think like that of me, right? Especially with my personal brand. I don't want people going on my profile and being like, who the hell is this freaking person like emailing me? I just don't want that kind of, like, it's not on brand for me, right? And most of my clients also don't like to be cold emailed. And so you can see, like, by me following how I like to buy, I am basically doing it in this. Hey, Court. Aw, my favorite bestie is in my live. So basically, where I like just lost my train of thought. But I don't even know what the hell I was talking about, guys. But oh yeah, so basically the way that I sell is the way that I want to be sold to, right? And the second reason with cold outreach is I get so many people in the DMs literally on a weekly basis. They're just like, how do I progress a conversation with a prospect? How do I like DM someone? Like, how do I DM someone without being salesy? And honestly, my personal response is like, if the person is not coming in inbound, you are always going to have to pitch in some way. That's just the truth. Like, I don't know, maybe some other person has some other like really great strategy, but to me, if someone is not coming inbound to you, you are going to have to mention your services at one point, and it's going to feel salesy, and they're either going to go for it or they're not. Some people are going to go for it because they actually have the problem. They don't mind jumping on the call, but like, you're going to feel salesy unless you get used to the whole sales process of like pitching your services, right? And so that's where inbound content comes in, content that converts, because literally people are coming straight into my DMs. I am not pitching my services. I am not like trying to get on a call with someone. Everyone who messages me is interested to work with me. And so I never have to pitch. Like, I never have to feel like that person that's like making that like small talk. And then it's like trying to get into like a sales conversation. It's like, we all know what's going on, right? And so in order to avoid all of that, I just use inbound content marketing because, again, I just don't want to be that person pitching my services, right? So again, like, just thinking about how you want to be sold to is similar to maybe how like you want to sell to your clients. So that's really super important, that you need to first have really a clear idea of who you're talking to. And again, that narrow segment, right? Don't get confused listening to different people, because again, they're going to take you away with different pain points, and you're not going to be hitting your ideal client with that very precise message consistently, right? All right. So the secret formula for creating content that converts. So I put secret as quotation marks in the description of the thing, because really the secret, honestly, is nothing glamorous. There's no like secret trick or anything. Like, for the longest time, I thought there was some like secret trick where it's like you're going to hire a coach and they're going to be like, oh, it's like this thing. And then you flip the switch and suddenly like leads start coming in. No, I don't think any coach can do that. Like, it takes time because we need to understand the customer research. So this is really the secret formula to creating content that converts, is honestly essentially twofold. Number one is the customer research. So you're actually gathering the input, right? You're like, okay, like I'll give you a really good example. One of my clients was telling me that, like I said, she's like, I don't know how to speak to people in the DMs. It's so awkward. Like, what the hell's going on? So I knew that was a pain point. And I knew another person in my audience was also struggling with this thing. Like, how do I like talk to people in the DMs without like being annoying, but also trying to kind of build a relationship? And so now and they're very similar. Like they're basically the same person. And so then what did I do? I wrote a LinkedIn post about like, hey, like, are you scared to reach out to your ideal clients in case you get ghosted or rejected? Because that's literally the way that they said it to me, right? And so now I'm basically using the direct words that I got from my clients to create a LinkedIn post to bring in more leads, right? So that's the first thing, right? So I think I've like talked that thing to death, customer research. The second piece of the secret formula to creating content that converts is actually measuring and gathering feedback and iterating and experimenting, right? So I feel like a lot of the time people get leads on LinkedIn, but they're not actually sure why they're getting those leads. So it kind of feels like accidental, but nothing is ever an accident, especially when people are pulling out their wallet. And so you need to understand, why are these people, but like, why did that transaction happen? And also conversely, if they didn't buy, you need to do a lot of sleuthing to try and figure out what happened that didn't work. Whether it's a post, maybe you did a sales post and no leads came in. Now you're going to need to iterate on that post, right? Like, especially if like a lead did come in, now you need to iterate on that, right? Experiment, change the messaging, change the call to action, change the visual, change the hook, like change the qualifiers that you have in your post. You're going to need to experiment. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't really understand, how much you need to do it. And they don't really understand that what they're doing is actually just throwing spaghetti on the wall. Because if you don't really have a clear intention for every post where you're like, this is the pain point that I'm speaking to, this is the kind of like thing that I'm trying to sell them, this is literally the action that I want them to take, what you're probably doing is just kind of like, maybe you're like, living your life during the week and you're kind of just like collecting content ideas. Like maybe you see like a cool article, or maybe like you have some kind of like thought in your head and you're like, oh, like that'd be such a cool LinkedIn post. Like I'll get engagement or something. I totally get it, because I used to do that, especially when I just had a personal brand. And this is actually a really important distinction here, because when I only had like a personal brand where like I wasn't really like selling anything directly, this was like mainly when I was testing ideas as an entrepreneur, or especially when I was in corporate. I had a personal brand, which meant that like I was just sharing my journey in order to get engagement and grow my audience, right? But that is very different content from content that actually sells your services, right? And so I think a lot of people see people on LinkedIn having these personal brands, either people who like work in a company and they're not actually selling anything, or LinkedIn influencers who are getting crazy engagement, talking about everything, but they're making no money. This is a thing. And so really the content that actually converts is the one that has the objective, and it's usually not about us, right? It's actually about our client. And so really trying to get clear on like this is the secret formula, right? The customer research, and then again iterating to see what works, and also throwing in feedback. I have this whole thing called feedback loops, where basically I put different feedback loops in my business to gather feedback for my business, basically for my audience. I might actually be doing like a masterclass on like a workshop on that one day, because I'm literally obsessed with feedback loops. But so you want to basically make sure that you're trying to get those insights, right? Otherwise, you're just going to continuously be blindly posting and just kind of not really testing properly. So you need to really hone in on what it is that these people's problems are, and how do you need to talk about it to grab their attention. So the next thing that I want to talk about is, I was going to talk about why content is so critical for attracting your dream clients, but I kind of touched on that when I was talking about the cold outreach thing. It's like, I guess the other thing that I want to kind of mention there is the key with content is the reason that content is so critical in attracting your dream clients over a long period of time is because you are, number one, you are basically selling to them in your content, and like you can even be like, getting rid of their objections and just basically like managing the sales process through the content. So like ideally you want to get to the point where like they've binged your content, they have a full idea of what you're like, what you offer, who you help, what your values are, like what your personality is, what your working style is. So by the time they come to your DMs directed from your content, you're not selling, you're not pitching anything. They're coming straight from your content. They're already bought in. Maybe they have some questions, maybe they have a few objections. We're all human, content can't be perfect, but it's like it's not like you're now having to like convince in the DMs and like pull teeth and everything. It's like they're pretty much sold because they already have a really good idea of what you're like. And so I really want to focus here as well on the whole good idea of what you're like, because especially if you're a service-based business owner, or if you're in services, or you like interact with clients, like you're in a field where you're gonna be like it's a relationship-based job, right? People really want to know what you're like to work with, right? Like there's so many times that I'll like hire a coach, honestly, because I just like their energy. I feel like they're similar to me. I feel like they understand me, and I feel like I can walk in their footsteps because they're similar to me, right? And so people want that feeling and they want to align with values. And that's where if you use your content, like so many of the times when I jump on a Zoom with someone, they're just like, oh my God, like I feel like I already know you, even though they've never met me because they've been consuming my content. And that makes the sale so much easier because now you're in a upper kind of like a you have kind of like have the upper hand because you're not the one having to introduce yourself and prove yourself to the person, right? It makes it so much easier. And I think the other piece of it is you actually get to gather more feedback because when someone is reaching out to you inbound, you get to ask them more questions, right? Because they, like, even just if someone follows you or if someone connects with you, it's like they found you. And so now, like, you can ask a few more questions. And this is where, for example, when I'm coming back to the feedback loops, it's like you get to implement more feedback loops because the person kind of wants help from you, right? They're connecting you because they're just like, I want you to help me. So they're going to answer your questions because they are hoping that you can help them, right? So it just creates more of a dialogue and you can actually get to know your clients as opposed to cold outreach where it's like you're sending the email, they either respond or they don't, but there's no dialogue. Like you don't get to find out like what are you thinking? What is going on in your life? Like you don't get to have that dialogue and you don't get to get that feedback, right? And so that's why I think content is so critical. The other piece is you can actually nurture people at all stages of their buyer journey. This is really important because when you're doing cold emailing, you're basically only targeting people who are currently, hey, thanks for joining. Got another person on the IG, super big full house today. I'm impressed. But so this is critical because when you're cold emailing, you are actually you are only selling to the people who are currently looking for a solution. People who are currently not looking for a solution are going to literally delete your email. Hopefully, you don't hit spam. Sometimes I hit spam on cold emails, guys. I really hate them. I really hate them. This is why, like, I don't like them. I'm not going to judge you if you do cold emails, but I'm just saying, like, I don't like getting cold emails. Just think about that. But the other piece is, so again, this buyer journey thing is, let's say so right now, there's a massive segment of my audience who is probably not thinking about hiring me ever. Like right now, they're just probably maybe following me for fun or something. Maybe they don't really have a problem with LinkedIn, or maybe they don't know that they have a problem yet, right? They're very just kind of like problem unaware, right? But they're following me. And I know that a lot of those people in a few months, or maybe in a few weeks, or maybe in a year or more, they're going to convert because they're going to be nurtured by me for the next few months. So let me tell you, last year I got an email from one of my email subscribers who had been following me for like literally a year and a half, if not 2 years. And she emailed me and she's like, hey, I don't know if you do this, but like I need help with writing coaching and like I love the way you write and I just would really like to hire you. And I was like, okay, sure. So we drew up a little proposal and I coached her on writing and she started writing on Medium. It was great. She was following me for 2 years. Literally, she was consuming my content for 2 years until finally something happened in her life where she's like, oh, like I need help with writing coaching. I love Lena's newsletter. Like, let me see if she actually is open to coaching me. If I had cold emailed her 2 years ago, she would never be thinking about me. In fact, like, she would probably be like, she'd probably instantly forget about me, or she would just have a negative impression of me, right? But when you create content, you are actually nurturing all these people and you're building this momentum over time, right? And that's what I've been doing on all my platforms. Like when I got on Instagram in April, it's like, or March, like I started nurturing my audience. And when I ran my first LinkedIn Baddie program in May, there was a woman who I really wanted to join the program, but I think she just wasn't ready yet. I didn't sell to her because, again, that's not what I do. And the next round of the LinkedIn Baddie program, I had quadrupled the price, or maybe it was like like 3 times the price or something because I extended the program and I put way more in it and I had social proof from the first round. And literally, I had not even announced the pre-sale. I was just saying, like, I'm gonna do a pre-sale. And she sent me like all these voice notes on a Saturday morning. And she's like, hey, I am so ready. I can't wait to get on LinkedIn. I'm so excited to be a LinkedIn baddie. I love the way you talk about LinkedIn. Like, I literally can't wait for this program. I'm ready. Where's the link? Literally, because I was nurturing her for 2 months. And this is the power of content, right? Is you can build your brand, build your audience, build awareness. And in the beginning, it feels really crappy because you're like posting into the void and you're just like, is anyone listening? Like, is anyone ever going to listen? If you stick to it and you continue to show up for your ideal client, you will gain the momentum. 100%. It just takes time, right? Sometimes time is the element and the consistency, right? Like you have to be doing it in a very consistent fashion. Again, it's those touch points, right? You can't be hitting different people. It can't be like one day we're talking about like, no code. The other day we're talking about like, how I work with my coach. The other time we're talking about like how my husband helps me with my family. Like, no, we need to get super focused for an extended period of time. This is what I've been doing, for example, on Instagram lately. Like I've managed to grow a complete community in 3 months because I am so freaking consistent on delivering my message every single day, the same kind of nuance of the message in different ways, right? And so that's a huge piece is the consistency, but content is so powerful. It's so powerful. The kind of like last thing that I'll leave you with before I wrap up here, I told myself I wasn't going to go over 45 minutes on the LinkedIn Baddie Diaries anymore. So in last year when I started my business, I was actually doing LinkedIn coaching, LinkedIn done for you services, but I was also actually doing coaching for product teams who wanted to give better product demos. I was a product manager in tech for like 5 years. So basically I actually gave this talk at this product event in March. And I actually ended up getting like the CEO of a company was like, hey, could you come coach my team? So I ended up getting my first kind of like client through this like random kind of talk at a conference that I did. Anyway, so I gave this talk on product demos. He hired me. I coached his team. And then I started talking on LinkedIn about how I was doing product demos coaching, how I used to do product demos as a product manager, how like, honestly, I'm really fucking good at product demos because that was my bread and butter as a product manager. I promoted myself. I wasn't selling anything, but I promoted myself and I was educating my audience and I was changing their perspective on product demos. Do you know what happened 2 months? Just 2 months into me talking about product demos, I was invited to contribute to a product management certificate curriculum for King's College London. Like King's College London, you guys. My dad actually taught there coincidentally because he's a philosophy professor when we lived in London. So that was a big deal for me. I was like, oh my God, like this is a university like my dad taught at. And I was invited. Do you know why? Because of freaking content, because I was talking about my expertise. Someone got wind of it on LinkedIn. I still don't know who the referrer is. I'm like dying to find out who referred me. But someone had referred me to this company that creates programs for university. Marissa's like, that's so cool. Yeah, this is the power of content. Like, because I was talking about it and I was talking about it pretty consistently for 2 months. Like, that is nothing. Again, the disclaimer that I want to place here is I do have an existing brand, I do have an existing audience, I have a lot of product managers in my audience, yes. But again, I cultivated that over time and I built this asset that is now generating revenue for me, right? Not just revenue, but it's generating authority. Like, that is honestly one of the things I'm most proud of because it was so unexpected. And so kind of like the other thing that I want to mention here is the possibilities are endless on LinkedIn with content, especially on LinkedIn because it's a professional platform and there's so many of these opportunities. Was I like trying to go get like into like trying to contribute to a curriculum? Like, no, that never even crossed my mind. Like, I didn't even think that was like possible for me because again, we place such sad limits on ourselves. But when you create content, you start showing up and you increase your visibility and you serve your audience and you show up as a real person who cares about something, you open doors because of that visibility and you actually get opportunities that you never even thought existed or were available to you. And the reason this is so efficient, because imagine if we went after every single objective that we wanted individually, like it wouldn't be very efficient. It's so much more fun when things just show up randomly. Like when I got that invitation, I was like, ooh, like this makes me even more excited to create content, right? And this is kind of coming back to the beginning of this live where I was talking about like, do you love creating content? Because if you really love it and you can find a way to like have it be a self-expression, people feel that and you're going to actually uncover these really fun opportunities because you're making yourself visible, right? And so I just wanted to share that because I think a lot of people they don't realize what's really possible with content. Like I think a lot of people look at it as like, oh, like, I'm just posting content to kind of like, show up and like get my clients and it's such a limited way to think about it. Like think bigger. Like this is your brand. Like this is who you are. Like you can turn into like an online personality, not in like a gross way, but just as an authority. Like we all want to be followed. Like we all want to be looked up to. We all want to make an impact on the world, and content is your ticket to that. And it's free. Like it's crazy. And then there's like multiple platforms. It's crazy. Like I just added YouTube to my omni-channel presence. So now I'm on like I guess 4 channels officially. And it's just like I'm so excited. Like I can't wait to see what opportunities come through. Um so content, very powerful, very powerful. And so I've just been kind of reading through the chat throughout this live and people telling me that content can be stressful and sometimes it's a little bit exhausting and stuff like that. And I totally get it. And I think I've been talking to a lot of my clients about what kind of blocks them from being able to create content consistently, especially content that they have some kind of confidence is actually going to drive results, right? Because I think the thing that really burns people out is when you're like throwing spaghetti at the wall, whether you know it or not. It's like you're doing the reps, you're doing the stuff, but you're not seeing the results. You're kind of just like, am I doing the right thing? Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm like, if I know that something is going to bring a result, like I will put in the reps, like I will do the work. But when I don't know that something's going to work and I have to keep doing it, I'm kind of just like, okay, like, am I just wasting time now? Because like, I'm not about that. And so I've been actually co-creating a new product with my clients that's going to be, I'm tempted to call it like Content 30 or something. but it's going to be basically, I think it's either going to be like 30 days of LinkedIn content or like 30 content ideas or something. Basically along my framework. So I have like a very specific content framework where there's certain types of content that you need to post in order to attract your ideal clients. Specifically that again speak to those pain points, and then the authority building content and all that whole shebang. And it's going to have basically prompts with templates. So you're going to basically have a whole cycle of content that has the right makeup of posts in order to sell, with even like templates. So not really like fully fill in the gap, because I really want people to write in their own style, but it'll be kind of like a hook, the style of hook, and kind of like how to structure the sections of the post. I'm not maybe like telling you word for word, because I want you to like, again, I want you to put your soul into your content, but I want you to have a little bit of structure. So like, okay, I started with here, then I talk about this in a few paragraphs, then I go here, then I lead into a call to action. And whether that type of post should have an engagement call to action or a sales call to action, because not every post can sell, at least not directly. All of your content should be selling slowly. Again, we're talking about that nurturing, but there are certain posts that are better designed for people to reach out to you. So in this product, I'm going to literally give you those posts with how to write them, and which call to action to do, whether to do an engagement one or a sales one. I might also kind of drop like, there might be like a training. There definitely will be a training on my content framework in this product, along with the content ideas and the prompts. And then additional to that, one of my clients really wants me to start a content membership where basically you pay monthly to essentially have your content audited. When you get done, I have a question, Lena. You mentioned sending a lot of connection requests through the week and only personally 20% because a lot of people just accept. What do you do if they accept, message them, and try to converse? Hope they look at your profile and reach out to you. That's a good question. So let me answer that in. Actually, let's jump into that right now. Why not? But if you guys have any questions about the Content 30 product, send me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn, because I'm still co-creating this. So if you want to create the product that you need, I suggest you talk to me now, because I'm still building it and I might be able to build into what you want, right? And then the content membership, like I said, is basically monthly. If you want to have your content audited by me, you want to have a monthly Q&A where you can jump in and ask questions, maybe get feedback on your post. I'm still creating this whole thing, by the way. So again, if this sounds interesting and you're kind of like, I want to make it how I want it, message me, because I am taking feedback in order to create something that you guys really want. So send me a DM if you want to learn more about that, or if you have any feedback on how to create it to make it as helpful as possible. But let's jump into Marissa's question. So you mentioned sending a lot of connection requests through the week, only personalize 20% of the invites because a lot of people will just accept. My question is, what do you do if they accept? Message them. And Marissa's saying it sounds very interesting. I'm so excited for Content 30. But what do you do if they accept? Message them and try to converse. Hope they look at your profile and reach out to you. Okay, so the reason that I get people to only send 20% of their connection requests personalized is because, again, fake personalized connection requests are just the worst. Like, I think someone sent me one the other day that was like, congratulations on being in your field or something. And I was just like, oh God. So the reason we send 20% personalized is because we actually want to personalize it when we send it, and we can't personalize 100% of our connection requests. And so unless we're sending like 2 a week or something. So what Marissa's saying is she knows that I've kind of taught about like 20% of your connection requests should be personalized, and the rest just send it blank. It's okay. They're not all going to get accepted, but the key here is your profile does the talking for you, right? When you send a blank connection request and you have a fully filled out profile that is so clear about who you are, and people literally get like a slice of you, you don't need to create a personalized connection request, especially if it's someone who's active on LinkedIn. They're trying to grow their network too. They know to check out the profile, especially if you have a really good headline and a profile picture that then entices them to want to check out your profile, right? So I just wanted to kind of provide that background for anyone. So Marissa's question is now, okay, I've sent the personalized or unpersonalized connection. I've connected with them. How they've accepted, what now? And so I'll give you kind of like the high level of my frameworks. I teach this in detail in all of my kind of inside my programs. But the high level of it is, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before with content that converts, is if you're not bringing clients in to DM you directly to work with you from your content, and you're trying to kind of like initiate a sale conversation in the DMs, you have to kind of it's going to be really tough to make it sound not salesy. And so what I personally prefer to do, this is my high level framework, is I will connect with people and I will just have like a casual conversation. So sometimes that casual conversation could be literally totally casual, where it's like, hey, like, you live in Vancouver, like what coffee shops do you like or something? Okay, hopefully something more interesting than that. It could be something that's completely unrelated to work if there's an appropriate icebreaker, right? You see some, like, I don't know, I think I saw someone had a headline about like digital nomad life or something. And I was like, oh my God, like you have to tell me all about it because I'm going to be a digital nomad next year. It's like anything that's a convenient human icebreaker, right? Something that's in common. The other type of conversation I have is something that's more kind of related to the business, right? So maybe it's like, what are you working on that you're excited about? Like, why did you start your business? Like, what do you love working about your clients? Or, like what's kind of like your big goal right now for your business, or something that's kind of more related to work. Because then you might be able to kind of segue into a sales conversation if that's what you want to do. I personally don't do that. I personally use the conversation to gather feedback. And so I get really sneaky, but I will never pitch in the DMs, but like I will ask you questions to deeply understand where you're currently at with your goals, with your pain points. I will watch the words that you type, or if you send me an audio message, I will transcribe it. I literally transcribed like 35 audio messages from Instagram in April when I was launching my program. Like, I'm not kidding you guys. Like, customer research is hard work. And then what do? I then create content that specifically targets them using what they said to me. Like, literally. There's actually a training that I did where I walked through a specific DM conversation that I had with a prospect. She has no idea she's a prospect. And then I literally directly translated it into a LinkedIn post. I think I'm going to put that training in some of like maybe it's going to be in the content 30, maybe it's in the content membership, but basically this is what you want to do is you're basically taking it and you're playing it back to them. And then you are initiating casual conversations in the DM so that you're popping up in the feed, right? And they're seeing your content. Because the issue with trying to kind of like force a sale in the DMs, and I totally broke my rule of not going past 45 minutes here because I freaking talk so much. And my husband's probably like, she's still going at it. He probably woke up because I was like talking. But basically, and now of course I'm like losing my train of thought. Oh God, I hate when I do that because I was talking so much. Marissa, what was I saying? What was I talking about? I was talking about my framework with the content. Oh yeah, you're always going to have to kind of force the sale. And the issue is using words to create posts that resonate. And then the issue is, so if you're trying to create a sales conversation in the DMs, one of the things that you're going to run into is intent. Because the thing is like intent and urgency. So does the person actually have the intent to solve this problem right now? Like, are they problem aware and are they looking for a solution? And is it urgent enough, right? Because these are the two critical pieces that will make someone reach out to you through the content. And that's what content does. When you write a sales post with a call to action to DM you, if this resonates, you're now validating they're the right person. They experience those pain points. They're looking for a solution and they're looking for it now because they're DMing you. This information will be very hard to extract in a DM conversation. Someone who's like extremely advanced and literally like cold outreach in DMs will probably know how to navigate that conversation and totally fine. Nothing against doing that. But again, me personally, I prefer not to do any kind of cold pitching. out again cold, right? Like warm pitching is different if you're having a sales conversation, but again, like really trying to like this is why content is so great because people are self-selecting, right? Sometimes people are going to come in and they're not going to be as serious, they're going to ghost you, it happens, or maybe turns out they're maybe not the right fit, and so that's where now you tighten up your sales post, or maybe you just kind of understand that sometimes not able to call in the perfect person, and that's okay. Let's now think about, okay, like what might have called that person in, like how can I now create a post that would maybe like repel that type of person but bring in the other person, right? So it's really that like push and pull of thinking about like what do I need to say to bring out the right person, and what do I need to say to put them into action, right? So these are some of the things that I think about. And so to answer Marissa's question is, I would personally just still kind of like hit the content and then just engage with them, so that because when you engage in the DMs, people see your content in the feed, right? Like if you see that, like you'll see that like if you DM someone the next day when you log on, it's like their post. So there's things you can do to engineer to show up in their feed and again engage with their content. But that's kind of the framework that I follow, and that's what I teach all my clients, and it makes it honestly so much easier because again, people are coming to you and they're qualified. All right. So that was just about 56 minutes that we crossed. So I'm going to slowly, oh gosh, I'm so rude. I haven't been saying hi to hey, Calvina. I'm sorry if I didn't say hi to you on time. I'm still getting used to navigating the YouTube and the Instagram. But anyway, so I'm going to slowly head out because it's 57 minutes, you guys. I need to seriously stop going over, but I had so much fun because I literally love creating content. I love I'm creating content as I speak right now because I'm live streaming. But again, if you guys want to learn more about the Content 30 and the potential content membership that's coming up, super fresh, of course. Yes, Marissa, thank you so much for joining. She gets the #1 active engager award. All the super engaged. I love it. And so, yeah, hit me in the DMs if you want to learn more about the Content 30 product, whatever that's going to look like, the content membership. This is for you if you are struggling to get consistent with content on. Thanks, Brenda. It's been, I'm so glad that you were here for the full hour. I'm so honored to have spent this time with you. Thanks, Brenda. I'm wishing you an amazing week. And yeah, so let me know, guys. This is for you if you are struggling to get consistent on LinkedIn with content and you don't feel like you're maybe posting the right type of content. You're like, I'm not really sure what I need to be posting to start converting. This is perfect for you. It's honestly going to be a pretty low ticket product. Like, I don't know what the cost is going to be yet right now because I'm still building it out and co-creating it. But I mean, it's going to be like it's going to be under like $200 because it's going to be like 30 content ideas or something. So yeah, send me a DM if you have any questions, if you want to co-create. Again, this is a chance to create it into something that you really need. So send me a message. Otherwise, next week, we're going to be talking about how to go from freelancer to business owner. This has been a very highly requested topic, so I'm super excited. So yeah, hopefully you guys can join me next week. But I just want to say thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing. This Baddie Diaries has been super fun. And yeah, send me a message as well if you what value you got out of it, if you loved it, what you learned. I love hearing from you guys. If you have any other topic requests for future Baddie Diaries. I also sometimes randomly just go live. So if you have like a topic, like maybe I'll just jump on and chat about it. So yeah, I love hearing from you. Message me and hopefully see you guys next week. All right. Have a great week. Let's kill it, baddies.